ask in the chat here if you could let me know by typing a 2 if you are not familiar with TradingView. Anybody? So everybody is familiar with TradingView. How about type a 1 in the chat if you're familiar with TradingView? Okay, I see 1, 2, not comfortable using it. Okay, then this is a good group of people. Out of 22 people, we have just 1 that's uncomfortable using. Okay, we have 2. All right, Catherine, Beatrice, Moses. Okay, we have 3. Good, good. We have more. Okay, good. So I'll go over the user interface. And for those who already are comfortable with it, a lot of this will be repetition or what you already know, but you might learn a few things, tricks here and there. So just bear with me if you already know most of the stuff, but we want to make sure that everybody is on the same page and everyone is comfortable. Okay, so I will start the recording here. Dylan, did you start the recording or should I start the recording? Okay. All right, so I'll just turn off the chat here. I won't be able to see the questions for a little bit as I go through this. So the way to get to TradingView is on a web browser, you just type in tradingview.com and you'll get to a site where it'll allow you to create an account to start analyzing your charts. Now, when you launch it initially, you'll have a chart that looks like this. And the first thing you want to do whenever you're looking to trade is figure out what currency pair or what instrument, whether it's indices, commodities like gold and silver, that you want to trade. So you would search for that specific currency pair right here. So let's say GBP JPY is what you want to trade or what you want to analyze. You would type that in the top left here, and it gives you a list of a number of the same currency pair. So why do you have a list of them instead of just one? Well, if you look at the right-hand side here, you see this column that says all exchanges. So this is the different brokers that the data is filtered in from into TradingView. So I usually select FXCM because it is usually the closest to the actual broker on MT4 that I use to trade. Okay, and as you're practicing with your TradingView, you want to test them all out and see which one closely matches with what you're trading on your actual trading account. So I'll go ahead and select that one. Let me clear this because I had some analysis going on there. Okay, so this is what you get. So that's one place you can search for your currencies. On this right-hand side here, what you can do is actually search for the same thing, GBP, JPY, and select it. And once you do that, now it will add it to your watch list, which is this list right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is delete all of these that came as a default on this watch list, and then just have a list of currency pairs that I am interested in. Okay, so what you can do if you have a specific list of currency pairs that you focus on, you can add them all here, and that way you have quick access to them. So let me add a few more: GBP, USD, put that here, GBP, AUD, and let's say EUR, GBP. So now instead of constantly going up here or up here to search for the currency, I can just click on them and you'll see that the chart loads up really quick. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way is to just make sure you click on the chart itself and just start typing. So right now, I didn't go up here and I didn't go up here. I just made sure I'm in the middle of the chart and I started typing on my keyboard and the list came up right away. So that's another way to bring up that list of currency pairs and the different instruments. So that's putting up the currencies. The next thing when you're trading that you want to look at is your time frame. And the time frames are listed right here. Okay, so what time frame means is, like now I've selected the 15M, which represents 15 minutes. It just means each of these candlesticks take 15 minutes to complete or to form. Okay, if I select the 1H, which is 1 hour, it just means each of these candlesticks take 1 hour to form. Now, most traders do what is known as top-down analysis, meaning they start their analysis from the day time frame to all the way down to wherever they put in their entries, which is usually a lower time frame, like the 15 and 30 minute. So what if I want to have, instead of these three, I want to have all the time frames that I look at up here ready for me to just click on instead of clicking on this drop down to find it. What I'll do is I come down to the day, which is 1 day, and this star right here will add it to the favorites. And what that does is now I've added the day as one of the options up here. Okay, if I want another one, I can come in and say I want the 5 minute. I click, click on the star, and then now you see I have 5 different options here. So now instead of going down to the drop down, all I need to do is select which time frame I want to look at to analyze. So now we have the pair, we have the time frame, and next thing we want to do is get into our analysis, which is you can decide whether you're using so I would like to clear my chart of any unnecessary items here. So we can see this floating sell and buy toolbar that tends to get in the way. And if you don't use TradingView to trade directly, then you don't need this. So the way to get rid of this is you get to the toolbar on the edge here and just right click on it, and you have an option to hide, or to hide the panel, right? So I'll just click on that and it disappears. So now we have a clean chart, and Okay. All right, so we're looking for the next tools we use when we're analyzing our charts. The most common ones I'll start with are trend lines, support and resistance lines, which are horizontal lines. So the place to find those are on the left-hand side, this toolbar. So initially, I think by default, this is what it looks like. Let me change to what it looks like by default. Okay, so you see here there's a diagonal line. So that is the trend line. But if you want to find other tools similar, so other line tools, you click on this button right here and it opens up a menu of all the line tools that are in that category, right? So trend line is what I wanted. So I clicked on that and a menu item appears for the tool that I selected, which is the trend line. So on this menu item, you can change the color, all these colors here, and you can change the opacity. So I'll leave it at black, and then this next, I can change the thickness of the line. I'll leave it at this one right here. Next option, you can decide you want a dotted line or a dashed line. And you have a bunch of other options here which you can experiment with. But the most common ones that people customize are the thickness and the style of the line. So now that I've selected that, I can come to the chart here. Let's say I go to my day time frame. Then I kind of zoom out and I can draw my trend line. And usually you want to draw the trend line in the direction of the trend. In this case, from the low to the high. So what I'm doing is clicking and then just moving the mouse until where I want it to stop. Now initially, let me just change the settings here because I think initially the trend line looks something like this. So I'll just draw it again. So it extends into infinity. And for some people, this is a struggle to draw because if you click on where you're starting and you move your mouse just a little bit, it's hard to control. But the more you move towards where you want the line to meet, then it's easier to control. So you can decide if you want trend lines that go into the future, infinity, or you can choose by clicking on the settings here, which is this cogwheel here, and unchecking this extend right line. Because if you did extend right or you did extend left, you can see it went backwards to, it doesn't stop, it just keeps going backwards. But if you uncheck that, it'll start where you make it start. And also if you uncheck this, it'll stop exactly where you want it to stop. Okay? So that's the trend line. Another common one that people use is the horizontal line, and it's found on the same menu. Click on that, select horizontal line, and again, you have that similar menu, color, width, type of line. So let's say I want to draw one right there. I just click on that level and it puts it on there. Again, if you click on the settings icon, you have all these things that you can use to customize the line, including put text on the line. So let's say this, you want this to be an entry point. When you're doing your analysis, you can say entry level. And you see it, put it up here. Now this text has its own customization too, color, size of the text, whether to show the text or just hide it, whether you want it in the middle right there or you want it on the right, if you want it above the line, below the line, on the line, which I don't know why anyone would want it on the line. So there you have it for that. You can also do the same for the trend line. And those of us who teach a lot, this comes in handy when you're marking up your charts and maybe you want to share certain setups with your team. It helps to have notes on your markups. So you see I can add trend here. So that's the trend line and that's the horizontal line. Now another use for these which comes in handy is, let's give a practical example. I get a trade idea from Lillian on Vibrata, and she gives me an entry point and a take profit. I can come here to Trading View. Let's say my entry point is what we put up here, and my take profit is right here on this line. You can set what is known as an alert or an alarm, so that when price gets to this particular level, you get a notification on your phone. If you download the app, the TradingView app on your phone, you'll get a notification on the app telling you whatever you want it to say when price gets to that level. Okay, so I'll just bring this up here. So the way to do that is, this was the take profit. Let me give it a different color. Okay, so let's say that's the take profit TP. Okay, so I'll just click on the line and then click on this icon that looks like an alarm clock. Click on that and it brings up this menu. So the order in which to tell it what to do is, I want to be notified when Euro GBP crosses, and in this case I'll just say down, but crossing would work just fine, but since price would be coming from up here coming down here, I'd say crosses down the horizontal line, which is this line. I want to be notified only once when it touches that line. And then you put a check mark here in notify on app, or if you have your computer on but you're probably working on something else, you can say show pop-up. So when that line is hit by price, it'll pop up on your screen saying, your TP has been hit. And so in this section here for message, you can actually say, put down what you want it to tell you, like TP hit, and you can even add fire emojis and all that other stuff that most people use. But so if I hit create, you'll notice it put, let me change this to a different color so you can see it. So it put a clock icon right below the line. So that tells you you have an alert that has been set for this line. And when price hits it, you'll see a notification that'll pop up on this screen right in the middle here. And you will also see, if you have the app, a notification on your app. So it's very helpful, like say, maybe you're in a trade and you want to know once the trade goes in profit. So in that case, I would move it, let's say this was our entry level, and price was above this line, so price happened to be negative. I can say once price comes a few pips in profit, I want to be notified so that I can move my stop loss to break even or something like that. So then I do this, and then I can put a message that will make sense to me when I get it. So move stop loss to break even. And so now when price hits that line, I'll get a notification telling me to do that. So that way, I don't have to constantly be looking at the chart. I'll get a notification when it gets to whatever levels I've identified on the chart. Is this making sense? Type some twos in the chat if it's making sense. Or are you lost? Okay. Good, good, good. Okay, so that is alerts. Thank you, thank you. Okay, good, good. So let me delete that. So let me not assume everyone knows how to delete. So if you click on the specific tool or item that you have on the chart and you want to delete it, you see the menu up here. Each icon or each tool that you draw on the chart has its own menu when you click on it. And at the end of the menu, there's a trash can which allows you to remove that particular drawing. Now this one wants a confirmation from me before I delete it because it has an alarm. And so basically it's saying, you put an alarm on this for a reason. Are you sure you want to delete it? And then I just confirm and it's gone. Another way to delete, if you just want to delete all your drawings, let me just put a few more here. So if you want to delete all of them at the same time, you come down here to this icon, the trash can again, and you click on it and you have the option to remove all drawings, remove indicators, remove everything, indicators and drawings. So I can just select remove all drawings and it takes them all out at once. Now here's a trick that for people who are familiar with this and maybe you draw a lot of trend lines in your initial analysis or support and resistance. What you can do, like say we draw the first one here and then you want to draw another one up here. Instead of, I know most people come here and do the clone or the copy, but one way you can do it once you've drawn it is you just hold control, not control, oops, sorry. Command or control. Command for a Mac, control for a PC. Control, click on the line and then just move it to where you want. So I can do another one here. Control, another one, control. Oops, sorry. So you can do that just by doing control instead of coming here, clone, copy, and moving it. All right, so now I'll delete, and it deleted all drawings. Okay, so what is the next tool that a lot of people use? Let me get some interaction in the chat. Someone tell me a tool that most people use other than the trend line and the horizontal line for their analysis. Or if you have a specific tool that you see people use but you don't know how to use it and you would like to know how to use it. Anybody? Oh, everyone an expert here. Fibonacci. Okay, I knew that one was coming. Okay, any other? The rectangle. Okay, good. Okay, I'm getting a lot of Fibonacci's. RSI, Fibonacci, stochastic. Okay, so now you're moving to indicators. Those are indicators. So for now, let's focus on the drawing tools and then we'll move on to the indicators. Okay, so, all right, so someone mentioned rectangle, Beatrice. So let's find the rectangle. Now, initially, I think the brush is what is selected here when you first open up, when you first open up TradingView. And a lot of people struggle to find where the rectangle is because you don't, it's not easy to tell which one of these menus it'll be under. So note that when you see the brush, you know that if you open up that menu, it'll open up the geometric shapes basically. So you have rectangle, you have rotated rectangle, ellipses, triangles. Most commonly used is the rectangle. So I'll select that And again, most people use this for support and resistance. So if you've been trading for a while, you know that support and resistance lines or areas are not really lines, they're zones. So people use the rectangle to highlight those zones. So it's like an area. So let's do this, for example. This is how a lot of people use the rectangles, okay? And it's pretty simple. You just click on where you want to start and extend it to where you want to stop. Now, if you're doing your back testing and you want to figure out, let's say we want to see if this zone that I marked is a valid zone, what a lot of people do is come to the settings, come to coordinates, and then, like, say I want to extend this all the way in the past, and then I want to go back and see if this level was respected in the past. So these numbers right here on the right hand side represent how far you want to extend it in the future and how far you want to extend it in the past. Okay, so the idea here is to just put a whole bunch of nines until, you know, like maybe 10 of them, just to extend it as far as possible, and it'll give you whatever number is the max. And then you do the same here, and this one you make sure at the beginning is a negative number. That means it'll push it in the opposite direction. It'll extend price in this direction, not price, it'll extend the rectangle in this direction. Now this price just represents the level of price of the top of the rectangle, and this one represents the level of price at the bottom of the rectangle. So if you have a specific price level that you want the zones to be on, you can use that, you can put that in here, okay? So now I put the nines there, and you see now it extended it to the back. So I'll hit OK, and if I go backwards in time, I can see that it's not a bad level that I selected here, because you can see price came and retested, broke through, retested here. It was respected here. I don't know how far I can go. Let's see. Price was below it most of the time. Look at this right here. This was June 1995. And you can see the level I drew this year was respected that far back. So as you're practicing how to draw support and resistance, when you're doing your back testing, this is a good way to just identify if you're doing the right thing and it's making sense, okay? I see a few questions here. Okay, how do you place the line on a specific price point? Okay. So for the rectangle, let me just zoom in and move it close to here, close to the edge here. Okay, so notice there are 2 points to take note of: the top of the rectangle and the bottom of the rectangle. So the top lines up with price on the right hand side. So let me bring up the settings of the rectangle. And if you look here, the price lines up with the 0.83534 lines up with this top part, and 0.82919 lines up with the bottom part. And that's because I think the order is reversed because of how I drew it. I drew it from bottom going up. And so the first point that I put down is what it put here. Okay, so let's say I want to change this and I know specific levels that I want to draw. So let's say I want this one to be 8,400. I mean 84 with 3 zeros. And then I want this one to be 83. Okay, so when I do that, you see now it extended and it made these the exact levels that I put on there. Okay, does that make sense, John? So that's how you would put it on specific price points. Now, if you want to do the same for the horizontal line, you can do that too. So I'll just put the line here. Doesn't matter where I put it because I know what level I want it to be on. So like say again, example, Lillian gives a trade on vibrator and she gives a TP. So I want to mark this on my chart. So I just need to find out what TP she gave, come here, put in that TP in coordinates, and it'll put this right where I want it to be. So you don't have to draw a line right here and then try to perfectly match it, and you can't get the exact number. All you need to do is go to the settings, put in the number you want, and it'll put it exactly where you want it to be. Okay? All right, so that's the rectangle. And extending it. Another thing you can do with tools, I just realized I missed this part. Let's say you have a whole different tools here. And you don't want to delete them completely, but you just want to maybe hide them so that you can do more analysis. So I selected the trend line. I can just click on this eye to hide it, right? And so now it's disappeared, okay? But I can come down here to show the object tree, which is basically it'll show all the objects on your chart. And then I look for that trend line here. It'll tell you the ones that are hidden because you'll see the eye icon that is highlighted. So I just click on that and it brings it back. Or if you want to clean the chart but not delete them completely, you can just hide all the drawing tools using this icon right here, the eye again. Click on that and now it hides all the drawings. Okay? And then you want to bring them back, bring them back. Now, another way to use the hiding feature for people who teach, like myself, a lot of people use the white space on the chart maybe to do some drawings. Let's say you're using the brush and you want to highlight some things. Make this black, but you don't want the chart visible when you're doing that, right? You can actually hide the chart itself. I mean the candlesticks. If you come up here and hover your mouse over the currency pair, you see it has its own menu too. So you can just click on that and hide everything, do all your drawings, whatever, and then delete them. Sorry. Delete, and then bring your chart back and you can continue with your analysis. Okay. Another thing to do when you've done analysis on your charts that you don't want to move by mistake. So I'm just going to draw a few tools here. Let me not go into that. Let me just draw something else here. What am I drawing? Okay, let me just put that there. Okay, so I have a few drawing tools on here. And as I move my mouse around, I don't want to move something by mistake like this, and then I don't remember where I set it. So what you can do is click on this lock here. lock down all your drawing tools once you've drawn them and you don't want them to move. So now I have all the tools locked. If I try to click and move this, I can't move them. You know, it'll move the whole chart. So that way you don't mess up your markups that you've done by mistake. And then if you want to change everything up, then you can unlock it and continue with what you're doing. Okay. Okay, so that's a few things with the tools. All right. Oh yeah, this is another way to use that people use the rectangle when they're identifying. This is known as consolidation when price is moving sideways, right? And one way I use this is also when price breaks out of the consolidation, it does what is known, it usually does what's known as a measured move. So if you copy this exact box using the trick I told you about holding control and duplicating it, you can identify the level that price will go to after it breaks out, because it's usually an equal distance. And we can see obviously here as it broke out, it went up to that. So that would have been a good trade. So that's just a little extra way that I use that rectangle. Okay, so the next thing someone mentioned is the fibs. I won't go into detail on what exactly the fib is, but this is where to find it. So this menu here usually starts off with a pitchfork, all right? And down here in the middle is where you have the common Fibonacci retracement that most people use. Okay, so I'll click on that. And first thing you can do is select, you know, the colors that you want the fib to have. These are my colors here. I hope you can see them, but let me just draw it again. So the fib, at least one thing you need to know is how to draw it. So if you're analyzing a downtrend, right, you want to draw the fib from the swing high, which is up here, to the swing low, which is down here. So that's the direction to draw it. Now, if you're analyzing an uptrend like this one, you'd click from here, sorry, you would go from down here going up. So let's start with the downtrend. So what you do is just click on where you want to start and then move the mouse to line up. This bottom line should line up with the swing low of what you're trying to measure. Now you can keep it right here, or you can extend it all the way to the end. People have different preferences, but as long as that bottom line lines up with the bottom, you know, you can move it anywhere you want. Okay, so I'll put mine somewhere here. Okay, so these are all the default levels that come on the fib. And initially when you put on the fib, this is what it'll look like. Something like this. There'll be colors in the zones. I prefer just to hide those colors. And when I bring up the settings for the fib, if you scroll down here, you have an option to change the opacity. So I just drop that down all the way to 0, or even just take off the background option. Either way works. Another thing you could do, just click on that, settings, is decide if you want the price to be lined to be right next to the percentages. So that way, if you're looking for price to come to a certain level, Instead of just looking at 100% and trying to line it up with the price on the edge here, you just make sure that prices is checked. If you take that off, then all you have is the percentages or the ratios, okay? And then the opposite you can do here, you can take off those percentages and then just be left with price, okay? Here you can customize the colors that you want. You can customize the line, the thickness of the lines, right? And you can customize this trend line. So this trend line is just this dotted line that goes across. You can customize that to be whatever color and type of line that you want, okay? So that is the basics of using the fib. So, so far, any questions? Am I moving too fast? Anyone want me to repeat anything? Everybody's okay? Type 2 in the chat if you're okay. Type 1 if you're lost. Okay. Oh, not okay. Oh, James, what's going on? What's not okay? Tell me. James Nana. Let us know what's not okay. I don't want to leave you behind. Too overwhelming, too fast, too easy. Oh, you want to know how to when to enter a trade using the fib? Well, that comes with the education in the IM Academy. But in general, a lot of people look for price to hit the 61.8 or the 78.6 levels to get into trades in general. But there's a whole bunch of rules that go with that too. And for those of you who've heard of the harmonic scanner, the harmonic scanner, the harmonic patterns are mostly based on levels of the Fibonacci retracement. It seems like everyone is good. So let's move on to indicators. So indicators are just more tools that help you with confirmation of whatever analysis that you're doing, okay? And the place to find the indicators are right here where you see the FX, that just stands for function. So if you click on that, oh, you know what, before I go to indicators, now all the tools that we use a lot, sometimes it can get frustrating having to go here, find them, and then put them on the chart. So, what is that? Okay, so what you can do is create what is known as, I call it just a quick access toolbar, which is like a favorites bar. So notice here next to all the tools, you can make whichever one you want favorite by highlighting the star. So as you can see here, I have all the ones I commonly use with a star next to them, okay? All these, okay? So what happens when you put a star next to them is you end up getting a floating toolbar like this. So now I can have this moving, or I can move it all around the chart if I wanted. But I have quick access to all the tools that I use commonly. So I don't have to now go here and look for trend line or horizontal line, all I need to do is come here. Here's my horizontal line, and I have it. Here's my trend line, and I have it. My Fibonacci's right there, and I have it. So I've saved myself a lot of time instead of having to come in here, find it, and then you can always just move this out of the way. Now, if you're done with it and you just want to hide it temporarily, then you come down here to the bottom left, and you see this star right here. That's like the favorites. That's the favorites toolbar. So if I click on it, it'll hide the favorites again. Okay. So I just wanted to remind you about that. So now let's go to the indicators. So this is where you find the indicators. All you'd have to do is basically know the indicator that you're looking for and then search for it in this search bar right here. And as you find the ones that you commonly use, again, you can put a star next to them. And as you do that, it'll create a list of favorite indicators that you have right here that you can use. Okay? So let's find a common one here. Let's say RSI. I heard someone say RSI. That's the relative strength index, and it's an oscillator. So I click on that. Oh, I had other indicators here. Sorry, let me get rid of these. Some of you saw my secret indicators. Okay, so this is the RSI. Now, like all the drawing tools, there are settings for each of them. So again, if you click on the settings icon, which is this cogwheel here, you see the parameters that you can change. So a lot of times when traders or educators are doing their lessons, the first question you see in the chats is, what are the settings for your indicators? So this is where you find the settings. And this is where you change settings in case you're following someone who has specific settings for indicators. Okay, so this is the default settings for the RSI. You could always change them in here to whatever you want. And then style, again, here you can customize it how you want. Put in whatever colors, change the thickness, take out the background, change the thickness of the levels, change the color of the levels. Let's say overbought, you want it red. Oversold, you want it green. So there's so much customization you can do with it. Okay. And yeah, I think that's that. Let me see. What's the best site to trade with, one which has user-friendly interface? Best site to trade with. So are you referring to broker? So let me know, Money Mom. Are you referring to what broker to trade with or website? Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, I know some brokers have a web version of MT4 that you can trade with on their sites, if I'm understanding that question correctly. Now, some people actually trade with this website, TradingView, but there are only specific brokers that you can trade on TradingView with. So I don't know if that answers your question. Okay, so Yeah, in terms of brokers, I know I have 3 different brokers that I use. I use FX Primus, I use Hugo's Way, I use CoinX. So I have different accounts with different brokers. But I believe most of them have a web version of the MT4. Although it doesn't have as much functionality as the actual MT4 app on your phone or app on the computer. So I would always suggest get the actual app and not just trade on the website itself. Okay. So indicators. So that's one type of indicator. So you notice this indicator showed up below the main chart. Okay. And there are other indicators that show up on the chart itself and overlay. So a good example is the moving averages that a lot of people use. So I'll type in move, and there we go. We have moving average. I like to use the exponential moving average. Reason being, it puts more emphasis on the most recent candles. So then again, it appears up here. Now, the more indicators I put, the more it'll list them up here. Now, with the free version of TradingView, I have a paid version of TradingView, but if the free version, they limit you to, I think, not more than 3 indicators you can use at a time. So, but that's usually more than enough to get good analysis done. So here I brought up the menu for the EMA, which is exponential moving average. And again, here inputs default settings. You can change, you can change that. You can change colors, similar to what we did with the RSI. Okay. And you can actually, I think this one, yes. You can actually create customization and save it as a default. So that way, every time you open up your trading view, you don't have to change the colors or whatever to what you prefer. You can save it as a default and it'll always be there. But if you ever want to change back to default settings, you hit reset settings and it'll take it back to the default setup. Okay, so that's indicators. I'll stop there and ask, are there any questions or something I didn't cover concerning indicators that anyone would like to know? Because there's so much more I can go over, but I just want to make sure that up to this point, everyone is on the same page and is making sense. Everybody okay? Type a 3 in the chat. And if you're not okay, type a 1. How do we know what inputs to enter? Okay, so the inputs based on your whatever you got, wherever you got your education. So usually if you're like say learning from an educator on IM, they'll tell you what settings they use for that particular indicator. Or as you do your own learning, you want to always experiment with different settings. Usually the default settings work on most indicators, but when you get comfortable to the point where you want to do some testing and experimenting, you want to I always encourage people to do that, because you might find settings that work better for you than what you've learned elsewhere. Okay, so settings, you always want to, depending on whatever strategy that you're following, just pay attention to whatever settings are being used in the strategy that you're learning. And that way you'll know exactly what inputs to put in these areas here. Does that make sense? how you put multiple time frames. TradingView recently changed. Dark color has changed my browser. How do I change it back to the plain white like yours? Okay, that's a good question. Is there a way you can save your work on the free version? I believe so. Okay, let me go through the questions here. So James, okay, James wants me to, so this session is more about learning how to use TradingView and be comfortable with it. And I know James wants me to teach a little bit more on how you use indicators to get in and out of trades. So that is more of a question for the educators and Lillian, but I'll just give you general examples. Don't go taking trades on this. So based on the two indicators that I put on here, right? I'll just give you a quick example, but please go and do your research, follow up with Lillian, and she can advise you a little bit better on that, okay? So like this RSI, that you notice there's a level up here and a level down here. So in general, when price gets above this red level, which is usually people refer to as price being overbought, then you'll begin to notice that this price in line with this high peak here, price begins to turn around going down. So basically what you need to do whenever price is above this red line is based on your learning and education. You want to start looking for opportunities for price to go down. And then it's vice versa for the bottom. When price goes below this green level, which is known as being oversold, you want to look. So at this point, it was oversold. You see here, price is at a low. You look for look for opportunities for price to go up. And as you can see, it actually went up a little bit here. Now, this is the day chart that we are in. So it may look like a small move, but as you can see, this is another tool we didn't go over. This ruler right here is what you can use to measure pips, okay? So I'm just gonna use it by clicking on it to select, click where I want to start measuring, and then move my mouse up. And as I move up, you can see the numbers changing on the extreme right. So that just tells me the number of pips that price moved. So I was just giving an example here. If I move it up to even, let's say, this line, we can see from the time price was oversold, it went up to this point, and that was 100 and something pips. So that's just an idea of how the RSI is used, but you always want to use it in conjunction with other, with market structure, with other indicators and other candlestick patterns, okay? So don't ever take a trade only based on the fact that this is oversold or overbought. You have to match it up with more market analysis, okay? Okay, Beatrice says, how do you zoom in and out? Okay, zooming in and out, I have the scroll wheel in the middle of my mouse. So if I scroll back, it zooms out, or is that zooming in? And then when I scroll forward, it zooms out. Okay, another way you can do it is, like, if you want to extend the screen like this, I go to the right-hand side where price is, I click and drag up. So it just moves with what I'm doing. I'm dragging up, so it's extending up. Now it's a little squished, so I'll go down here to where the dates are, date and time, and now I click and I drag sideways. And then now it opens up like that. So that's two ways to do it. You can either do it like this, separately, or just if you have a scroll wheel, up and down. And then if you just click and move the chart, you can click and move it. Then you also have a zoom in here icon right there. Okay. So what's the other question? Can you save your work? I believe you can save your work even on the free version. Just make sure you get an account, and then there are options to save your work. Okay, trading view reset. Okay, so customization of the trading view. So right now, you can see this is a white background, but trading view has the option to change the color theme. So how I brought that up is I just right click on the screen, and then I go to the color theme right here. And the default option is light. If I select dark, then it makes my screen dark. So now you have the dark theme. Okay. So I'll just change it back because I believe the light one is easier to see when teaching. Okay. Did that help, Ruth? Just let me know if that helped. And while on those settings, a few other things that I can tell you about is, have you ever noticed when some traders share screenshots of their trading view, they have the name of the currency pair right in the middle in the background, like a watermark. So the way to bring that up is, again, right click on the screen, go to settings, and make sure you select the appearance tab. And you select watermark. And now if you look behind there, it tells me what pair, what time frame. Okay. So you can change the opacity of that if you don't want it too dark. You can change the color, so on and so forth. Here, if you see that there are grid lines, if you don't want those grid lines, this is where the grid line settings are, in the same appearance tab. You can change this opacity to 0, and now you don't have grid lines. It's just a clean chart. Okay. Yes, Catherine, that is right. So this right here is where you can save your layouts. Okay. So right now this layout is unnamed. I haven't really given it a name. I can rename it, make a copy of it, or just save it as whatever it is. Right now I have the auto save on, so it will save every 2 minutes, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay. So that's how you would save your charts. Where do you enter a trade, putting stop loss and TP? Okay, so this, we don't use this as a trading platform. We mostly use this for analysis. And then you put in your trades on MT4 on your computer or on your phone. So this is all just for basically your studying, your marking up of your charts, and then you put in your trades on the app called MetaTrader 4. Okay, but it's I would advise everybody to also get the Trading View, to get a Trading View account, because the more you work on this, it's very user friendly, and it'll make you a better trader. You know, I can do a lot of the same things on MT4, but it's not as user friendly as Trading View is. So I always advise everyone to use Trading View. Okay, did I miss any other question? Lydia wanted me to, is RSI also CCI, or is it stochastic oscillator? So RSI, CCI, and stochastic oscillator are all different indicators, and they work slightly differently. But they're the type of indicators that will appear at the bottom of the chart. They're all oscillators. Okay. All right, so what else? I know we're going on over an hour. You guys want more, or should we call it a day and then do it again another day? Because I can keep going. Lillian, what do you think? Okay, George asks, how do you use the MACD? Well, again, MACD, you would come here, type in MACD, click on that, and it'll put the MACD here. Now, there are different ways people use the MACD, and depending on your level of education in forex, it might get a little bit complicated. So one way people use the MACD is they focus just on the histogram, which is the green and red areas here, and look for what is known as divergence. Okay, and some people look for the crosses of these lines. So when this blue line crosses below this orange line, then they look for price to go down. So now an example of what I was saying is combining multiple indicators to give you confirmation for a setup is, let's say we see on the MACD, the blue crossed the orange. Okay, that's one indication of going down for a sell. We can see on the RSI, price was overbought, right? And now it's coming back down. So that's another indication for a sell. And we can see up here, price is beginning to come down as these indicators are telling you the same thing. So when you see two indicators agree on the direction of your analysis, then it makes your confidence in getting into that trade a little bit higher. But I always advise combine indicator signals with actual price action, just based on candlestick patterns and break of support lines and resistance lines and trend lines. You want to combine them all. Okay. So I know, George, I didn't answer your question completely, but I would say watch some of the educators in the academy, and since they all have different strategies, you'll realize that some of them use indicators differently. Some of them put different settings on different inputs on the indicators to work with their style of trading. All right. Any other questions? I'll just make this a question and answer session from this point on, just so that I make sure that I don't miss out on what someone wants to know. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Just let me know and I'll answer it. Is there something I missed out about TradingView? Let me know. Does everyone here have a, or who, type a 5 in the chat if you have a TradingView account. Two people, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, so most people have. Okay, and this next question is just for me. Type a 6 in the chat if you have learned something that you didn't know before about TradingView. Okay, I feel better now. Because sometimes I can talk for an hour and everybody's like, we already know that. Okay, good. Okay. So type a 7 in the chat if you want me to keep going. All right. So, now all the numbers. I saw a question here. Ichimoku Cloud. Okay, I think someone wants me to. Please hover your mouse just below the lower indicator. The zooming in and out icon comes on. Oh, okay. You're trying to say how to bring up that zoom. I don't know why it's not showing up on my screen, but I know what you're talking about. There's a zoom in and out icon that usually appears at the bottom here when you put your mouse over it. For some reason, mine is not showing up. Maybe a session another day when you're all fresh. Oh yeah, definitely. I wouldn't mind doing this every so often, because I know a lot of times, even with my team, when people come in, they get so intimidated because they don't know how to use the tools. It's not about, I mean, they catch the gist of forex and the theory, but then when it comes to actually using the tools, they get intimidated, and that alone can prevent someone from getting into forex even more, because the tools are too intimidating. So I don't mind doing a session like this again, as long as people want it. Okay, how to use the alligator. Now that is one indicator I have not used, so I cannot help you, Faith, on that one. Okay, 7 for Q&A. Okay, so let's go to the cloud. Okay, so one way to get rid of all these indicators, you see each of them have a menu here. I can close this or delete this pane, or I can just close or remove the indicator like this. So then for these ones on the chart, this is where they're listed. I can either hide it or I can delete it. Okay, so I know there's two indicators that someone mentioned. I just remembered. So let's go over the first one that I missed, which is the Bollinger Band. So this is what the Bollinger Band is. And a quick overview of how people use it is, whenever you see it, price looks like it's squeezed right here, you see the band is extended outward and downward here, but then it comes and squeezes down here. Whenever it does that, pay attention, because soon price is going to break out. And usually when it does, you can't tell what direction it'll break out in, but when it does, it usually gives a pretty good move. Like you can see, this one is a couple of hundred pips. Again here, it was squeezed, and just after the squeeze, see how far up it went. But again, more details on how to use that, depending on what strategy you use, you can find out from the educators on the academy. Okay, so that's the Bollinger Band. I'll close that. And then someone asked about the Ichimoku. So that's a very popular one too. In the academy, made really popular by Dr. Kathy Kirkland, aka Dr. K, aka the Queen of the Cloud. And this is, I'll come up here, Ichimoku Cloud. The full name is Ichimoku Kinkohyo, which is a Japanese name for, that just means one glance equilibrium chart. So this is what it looks like. If you're following Dr. K on IM, you would have to change the default settings to the settings that she uses when she's using this indicator. So again, we'll go up here. I double clicked on the cloud, and the first thing she'll tell you to do is change these lines. Change the color of these lines. So conversion line is going to be red, and baseline is going to be blue. One way I remember it always is base for blue, and then the other one for red. Okay. And then the next thing with Dr. K's settings, so these are not the default settings or any other person's settings, but these are Dr. K's settings, is she changes these to, is it 6, 13, and 26 here? So, but again, just watch her videos on the Academy, and she goes over that every single time just to make sure you have the same settings. So this is an indicator that once you get to learn how to use it, it can give you a lot of information all in one without having to draw any trend lines and support and resistance, because once you learn how to read it, it actually has support and resistance lines inbuilt into it. All right, but yeah, this is not the session to go over all of that. Okay. All right, yes, Asha, we are recording this session, so I'm sure Lillian will make it available to you guys. And also the session Lillian did for us last week, I'll be sharing with her the link to the video after this call, and I'm sure she'll send it, share it with you guys. Okay. So yeah, with indicators, guys, just remember there's so many indicators. Like if you see this list of indicators here, there's just so many. And you don't want to be caught up trying to memorize or use all of them. My advice is always learn how to analyze charts just like this, using trend lines, support and resistance lines, and maybe the fib. And once you get to do that, it doesn't matter what other strategy you learn, what indicator you use, they all work with market structure. So once you learn market structure, then everything else, will work out just fine. But pay attention to market structure. I can't emphasize that enough. And for those who are interested in specific indicators like the cloud, follow Dr. K on IM, on Go Live on IM, and you learn how she uses that. Okay. Anybody else with any other questions? Because I think now it's what, 1.5 hours. For you guys, I know it's late at night. For me, it's 2 p.m. So I can keep going, but I know you guys need to get to bed. So we can plan to do this another time. I want to thank you guys for showing up. Really appreciate it, and I hope it's added some value to your trading. or your knowledge base, and just let Lillian know if you want me to do this again, and we can keep doing this more and more. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Lillian, for giving me this opportunity. So I can turn it back to you. Okay, I see you guys asking for another session. Yeah, we'll plan it with Lillian and keep you guys updated.